And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with us. We're going to bring a lot of energy to Brad Sham today, the voice of the Dallas Cowboys here. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I come on this show and I talk to people about my super secret sources, Brad Sham doesn't know that he's one of them. So when I come on here talking about my friends, we just met, but Brad Sham is one of my sources when I come on here talking all this news.
Honored to serve.
Thank you very much, Brad. I can't call you Mr. Sham. Thank you very much, Brad.
I prefer.
So let me just ask you a question, Brad. Let me just ask you a question. I'm a young Cowboy fan. I'm 33 years old, and I haven't been doing this very long. You've been the voice of this thing since I wasn't even around. I wasn't even around.
Correct.
Are you buying this whole what's your vibe on this whole Schottenheimer thing? Me and Brian talk about it every night here, and we like to compare the current coach to the last coach. And I don't think there's been a situation besides, back in, 95 where like the last coach gets to a dirty Mac on the previous coach. Like, I know all the stuff that's going wrong here and let me try to fix this. But Schottenheimer doesn't have previous head coach experience. So what are you thinking? What do you expect for this rookie head coach that's been in the league for 30 years that gets to do all the things right that Mike McCarthy does wrong?
Well, the first thing I would say is I was on a show in New Orleans not long after they hired Kellen as their head coach, and so they said, "Well, you know Kellen Moore, what should Saints fans expect?" And I said, "Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is, besides the fact that he's a good football coach, the first thing I'm going to tell you is judge him by the quality of the players he has." So that will be a big determinant for Schottenheimer. This is what it appears to me so far. Very positive guy. No question, from anyone who's been out there and around the team for a couple of years, there is a very significant difference in energy. We've read that, and it's true. And the coaching staff is really interesting. They are young, very few of them with a lot of NFL experience. Not none, but there are a lot of coaches who don't know each other, and that's going to add some energy of its own. So that's going to be part of how we're going to judge Schottenheimer. Obviously, we can't really start forming opinions about him. Let me take that back. Fans can't start forming opinions about him until they don't like the play that he called or a decision that he made on fourth down. But he is definitely a people person. He definitely. I will give you one little anecdote. So he's got this ping pong table that he put in the locker room. We've all heard about that. We've seen it. And the last day that we were allowed to go in for minicamp, I saw him in there twice. That's twice more than I saw Mike McCarthy in the locker room in his years here. Now, that doesn't mean Mike was never in the locker room. Of course he was in the locker room, but he sure never was there when any of us could see him. And Schottenheimer, he loves his guys. He loves his players. He loves the interaction. And I believe the most important thing to me is that is all authentic.
Sure.
And I think you have to be, if you're going to be up in front of a group of people, whatever it is, you've got to be who you really are. And I think he is that. And so I am encouraged. I think one of the big problems for him in terms of perception is that he had not been chasing head coaching jobs for the last 10 years. And therefore, every year, fans and us, because we are lazy, we don't get on the phone and research people we don't know. We pick up what other people like us say online and repeat it. So everybody knew that Ben Johnson was the hottest property in coaching this past year. And why did everybody know it? Because he was with the Lions and they scored a lot of points, and that's what everybody said. Me personally, I'm a big Aaron Glenn fan. I would have loved it if they had hired him.
Sure.
But again, people knew about Aaron Glenn because he was the Lions defensive coordinator, and they were so. nobody was talking about Brian Schottenheimer because he hasn't been pursuing head coaching jobs. He did earlier in his career, and I don't know yet why he didn't for a while. I'm going to try to find that out. But the fact is that he didn't. So people weren't going online and picking up the paper and reading about Schottenheimer as being interviewed for this job or talked about for that job. And so people presume that he can't do it. And I think that's an incorrect presumption. And if you just listen to, I saw a clip online today of Anthony Lynn talking about Schottenheimer. They were at the Jets together. I mean, just listen to the people who know him best and have been around him, and there's not a negative word. And here's the other thing I'll say. He has yet to not answer a question at any interview or press conference. There's no word salads. And I thought when he was the offensive coordinator, he was very clearly not ever going to say anything that might be misconstrued by anyone as being critical of Mike McCarthy. He wasn't going to do it. So he would give you half the dictionary. But since he's become the head coach from day one, every time I've heard him ask a question, he has answered it. And now whether people will like the answers as we go on through the year, we'll find out. So I guess my answer to your question is, yeah, I'm buying it. Right now, I'm very positive about what I've seen and positively disposed for him.
Well, see, Brad, I'm very much so sold. Like, I'm drinking Kool-Aid all day, every day, but I didn't start that way. This has been a long progress of just of me buying in slowly but surely.
What got you there?
I'll tell you what. First, I thought that the ping pong table was nonsense, right? But I do content, so I have to, just listen to everybody's press conference, everybody's locker room availability, and no matter who's talking on the microphone, you hear that daggone ping pong table in the background ping ponging. So maybe there's a thing, but this is what really got me. And I hate to keep bringing up, Mike McCarthy in this thing, but you kind of have to when you're, one-to-one comparing it. But what I love about Schottenheimer, what he does, think about the dudes in the Eagles that just won a Super Bowl over there, right? Sirianni, I don't know what he does great. I don't know what his past is. I don't know what his thing was, but he leaned on his coaches and he kind of leaned on his roster. So he's a Super Bowl coach now. What I love about Schottenheimer is he didn't just go out and hire his friends.
Right.
He didn't just say, oh, well, Dean Pease's dad gave my dad a job, so I'm going to hire Dean Pease's son to come here and coach kickers or something. Like, he went and got guys that were in demand, guys that got respect around here. Clayton Adams, Eberflus, they have demand here. So in my mind, if you're Schottenheimer, he's going to call the plays, or at least that's what he's saying for right now. We'll see. Lean on the best coaches in the league, please.
Wait. What do you mean we'll see? Who do you think's going to call the plays if it's not him?
I have no clue, Branch. This whole thing is a roller coaster.
I think the whole deal was that
sure.
I think one of the reasons he's here is my understanding was that he felt he was ready to call the plays.
Sure.
And Mike wasn't going to give up the play calling.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And so he told them that that's cool, I get it, but I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go somewhere where I can call the plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that time they started saying, okay, we're not 100% sold on that guy.
Sure.
McCarthy was not fired. And we get that done first. He was not fired.
Sure.
He chose to leave. And I don't think he really liked the job very much.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did not like being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys because of everything that comes with it.
Sure.
And that's fine. That's not a bad thing on him, but that kind of seeps into your attitude. So now they're looking at McCarthy and they're saying, well, we're not 100% sold on this guy. And now, but wait a minute, this guy wants to call the plays, sure, and he's got some ideas, and maybe we ought to take a look at him. They weren't starting out looking at him, but there's a reason they settled on him, and I'm very hopeful and positive.
Hopefully, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Brad. I if I could circle back about McCarthy real quick, just to what you said, and I admired you every week when I was doing the pregame show. I admire you a lot. You're one of my dear friends.
Yep, thank you.
I admired the 7 to 8 minutes you tried to get something from Mike McCarthy. I admired that. I really did. You're like trying to, and And I wonder, because you've had relationships with all the coaches, Tom Landry, Jimmy John. You've had relationships with all of them. And I'm curious, though, what made Mike different about this job that, say, the other coaches didn't appreciate?
Well, first of all, Mike came in, obviously, and it turned into COVID right after he was hired. So from my standpoint, I never had a chance to establish a relationship with him because we literally couldn't get physically next to them for all of 2020, and we couldn't get that close for 21. And so it took a little trial and error for him to understand me and for me to understand him. And we did, I think, have a pretty good relationship. Here's something I don't think anybody knows, but I don't think there's a problem with me telling it.
Not here.
Yeah, because it's just us. Nobody was.
Just us.
Yeah, he does not like talking about the game that's about to be played.
Wow.
Don't ask him questions about the game that's about to be played. So I had to, those things that I will tell you that it made me feel good when you would send me a text and say, that was great with McCarthy, because I worked my large ass off trying to get those comments from him.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
Around the game. He is look, coaches are paranoid. Some are more paranoid than others. Just as an example, there was a game that Tyler Guyton had missed a couple of games, and it was not clear whether he was going to play or not. It developed that and I recorded that the day of the game. That was not done like on Friday. That was a day of the game thing. And so it developed that Guyton was going to dress. He was not going to play. He wasn't going to start anyway. And so when we sat down at his desk, it was a home game, and I said, hey, before I get going, just let me check Guyton's dressed. Yep. And is he going to play? And he said, well, he's not going to play, but we don't need to talk about that. Now, this is him. It's not because he's trying to be a jerk. It's because he really in his heart believes, and I presume it's because it must have happened to him at some point, that if he says in this interview it's going to run like, an hour before kickoff, I don't know who on the other team's going to hear it, but he believes in his heart that if he says something about lineups or strategy or anything like that, then the other team might hear it and they might have an edge. So I can't ask him, is Tyler Guyton going to play today? So I have to find ways to ask questions that are pertinent to the game and the players playing it without asking how it's going to happen today. So that was a challenge, but challenges are good. That's okay. But I got along fine with him once we kind of figured out who each other was.
Since you got a chance to talk to Mike McCarthy so much, this is the last thing I'm gonna say about Mike McCarthy, I promise. What do you think happened in 2023, right?
Yeah.
The offense was a little shaky early in the season.
Yeah.
And somebody went to go talk to Mike allegedly. Then the offense looked fantastic all the way to the Green Bay game. And then there's the whole 2024 situation that looked like the beginning of that previous season. It just didn't work out offensively. What do you think happened with that?
So in 24, every team is different, and that's not just a cliche. So in 24, Zach Martin was a physical shell of himself, and Guyton is not ready to play left tackle, and Beebe's a first-time center, so the offensive line is not as good. I think that what you just brought up about the first part of 23 is really significant to me, because they were supposed to be good and they were not.
Yeah. And
they got into the bye, and CD Lamb complained a couple times and people criticized him, but I understood why he was complaining. And, Dak is a tremendous diplomat. He's trying to make everybody happy publicly. I don't think he's doing it privately, but he's trying to make sure everybody's okay when he goes out every day publicly. But whatever happened during that bye, whoever went to him and said, whatever we're doing is not right and we got to do more of this, that's when things kicked into gear. And I'm going to be really curious to watch from the outset and see if now this is a different team, and there's chemistry is completely different, but I'm really interested to see if they're a little more functional offensively from the beginning. So when you say what happened, I think that those things are part of it. 24, Mike starts the year mad because he doesn't have an extension. He's the whole coaching staff doesn't have a contract. That's unheard of. Jerry is famous for saying that he is very comfortable with ambiguity, and most coaches are not. And so Mike thinks, I'm a Super Bowl coach. I should not have to be coaching for my job here like this. So I think he was a little negative about it, and perhaps with reason. But I think that was his attitude. And then he loses 4 defensive ends, and they didn't really figure out who the running back was from the beginning. Wasn't like they decided on Dowdle, but it wasn't like they were trying to be tilted towards Zeke either. Zeke started the first game, had minimal carries, didn't start the second game. They never really, I didn't see how they really tried very much to get into the rotation, the committee that he talked about. And then finally, when they settled on Dowdle, that worked out okay. So that whole year was played under a cloud before the injuries. Once you get all the injuries, they finished with all the injuries at cornerback. 4 defensive ends are down. The quarterback's out. Now it's out the window. Now just forget about it. And in some regards, it's a testament to how well he rallied them and how much they played for him and how well he coached that they won 7 games and were able to be competitive down the stretch, because that could have been the kind of disaster that it was in 2007 after the loss in Green Bay that got Wade Phillips fired. And that didn't happen. And I think McCarthy deserves a lot of credit for that. But, I don't know exactly what the bugaboo was at the beginning of 23, but that was significant. And then they weren't able to win. And then in 24, it all just kind of came off the rails.
Brad, as we look at this current roster, I'm going to ask you, why George Pickens?
Because they don't have to be committed to him, because he's a really good player. If it wasn't for the fact that he has acted a fool, then everybody would want George Pickens.
Sure.
If you've seen him play, he's a really good player.
Sure.
And he'll help them.
Yeah.
If I had to make a commitment to him, which the Steelers would have, been in a position to have to do, then I would be scared to have that guy. But I'm sure that he appears to be a bright young man.
Yeah.
I'm sure that someone has gotten his ear and said, this year is your best chance, maybe your only chance to write your ticket the way you want it to go. If he has an all-pro year, then he'll be a free agent, and I don't know if the Cowboys will be able to afford him, because you've got Bland and Tyler Smith and the kicker have to be signed, and there are other people. I don't know if they'll be able to afford it, but if he has an all-pro year, then maybe you readjust your priorities. Things happen and things change. If they decide they can't afford him, then he's going to make a haul somewhere else, and they'll get a nice compensatory draft choice. If he is a fly in the ointment, like he was in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin said, I can't use you. I can't win with you. Now, how bad does it have to be for Mike Tomlin on that team under those circumstances to say, I'm sorry, I can't use you? That screams to me. But they would have had to have been making a commitment to him. The Cowboys don't have to. This is 1 year. Come show off. Do your deal. And Lamb and Prescott have done a great job, it appears, so far, of putting their arms around him. I can't think, Brian, of a guy from a physical receiver standpoint. If you leave the other stuff, forget the money.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Is there a better physical receiver to put in there with Lamb?
No.
And then whoever becomes the 3, and now the tight end, and now you're going to find different ways to use Turpin, and now you've got the rookie running back from Texas who's a fact. You got all kinds of things you can do.
Yeah.
And he's so that's why because you don't have to make a commitment to it.
I want to ask you this, Brad. You and Voch and I are going to be watching training camp practices standing side by
Voch,
side.
are you coming out there?
Yes, sir.
He is.
Yes, sir.
He is. He is coming out there. Watch. We're going to watch practice together. Is there a possibility that Micah Parsons is going to be standing right next to us?
Well, is there a possibility? Sure. Well, I don't think.
Is it likely?
I don't think he'd be standing next to us, but.
Oh, he will. Everybody likes standing next to you. They learn.
Yeah,
stuff.
no. I am going to be an optimist and say that they are going to get that done, and that maybe he'll miss a week. I don't know, but that it'll be that he'll be out there. He's got a lot to prove too. He's got a lot to prove as a leader, and look, it's kind of like with Lamb and Presley. Everybody knows what he's going to make. I mean, it's the formula is there, and now they do have to. The team has to make a deal. Yes. I don't think that he is going to say. I don't think he's going to just be completely unreasonable in what he's asking for. He's got really good agents. I think it'd be foolish to just absolutely guarantee Parsons won't miss a practice. I think that'd be foolish. But I think that there's a greater chance than not that he'll be on the field more often than not.
Brad, why do you think some contracts last a little longer than others? I just remember.
You talking about to get done, Voch?
Yeah. Like, some get done at the very last second. But I just remember vividly Zach Martin saying, "Hey, I need more money," and Josh Ball going out there looking terrible. And as soon as Josh Ball looked bad, the Zach Martin thing got done. Like, immediately got done.
I will tell you, I'm pretty confident it didn't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
With Ball.
Okay.
Zach was
coincidence.
Zach was insistent.
Okay.
They are pretty well. They've established pretty much who they are as an organization, both in terms of they will pay their players and they won't set the market. And so they knew who Zach was, and they weren't going to let him not play. And I think what you have to do, Voch, here's the hard thing for most people. Mm-hmm. Be Jerry Jones.
I love it. We love to do that. We love to do that here.
We play Jerry Jones all the time.
We love that.
Be Stephen Jones. You have to be them. You're responsible for that cap.
Sure.
You're responsible for this year and next year and the cap and the ramifications. And so you cannot be a fan and let your emotions govern how you are going to pay people and when and how much. Now you have to be smart. Cincinnati's going through some stuff because they just won't do it, and they might not have the money because they pay a lot of offensive players.
Yeah, sure.
But I think the reason some get done later is it really is the organization's philosophy most of the time, and then sometimes the agent just doesn't want to. I mean,
right.
Back to Lamb's deal a couple of years ago. The same agent had him and Jefferson, and who was the other one, Brian? That there were three of them that the same agent had, and they were all hanging out there.
Sure.
And, none of them was going to move until one of them moved. So that's the part of it that's not quite as visible, and it's one of the reasons some of those things drag out.
Do you think, Brad, that if Stephen Jones had to do it over, and I'm going to ask you this question like they've painted themselves in a corner because of the way I think the Joneses want to negotiate. I just think the agents now realize they could hold this as long as possible and they're going to get what they want out of the deal. And I think that if Stephen Jones had to do it over, that maybe if he would have drawn the line in the sand on Zeke or somebody like that, that maybe fortunes would be a little different.
Maybe. I think Stephen has said that much. I mean, I think
he was mad. I think he was mad at the owners' meeting, and he didn't want to talk about the contract. He didn't want to talk about it.
You talking about this year?
Yeah, this year. He says, "Don't ask me about this." I think he's mad because one of the things the Joneses are really good at is negotiating. In business, they're really good at this stuff. And I think the agents have taken the ball out of their court to negotiate because they realize that if we don't negotiate with them, they'll say, okay, we have to have the player. We can physically make it work. Let's do it.
It's gotten harder. I don't think there's any question that it's gotten harder. And I mean, I think that I can't remember whether it was Lamb or which one it was, but one of Jerry's famous sayings is "Don't let your money get mad." And there was one of those deals where it looked to me like he let.
Oh, that was Amari Cooper. That was Amari Cooper one was about that. I think when.
Yeah, but that wasn't just money. That wasn't just money.
But I remember him saying something like that.
I mean, he's been saying that for as long as I can remember. Don't let your money get mad. And most of the time he doesn't. And then I think there's been a time or two in recent years where maybe it kind of has, and maybe what you're saying is part of the frustration that they realize that some of these agents are pretty good, and the structure of other contracts is what it is, and they don't have a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah. Brad, if we get to the end of this season and George Pickens was just quiet as a church mouse, there was no nonsense, there was no trouble, he didn't cuss me out after the game or something like that, and he just played football, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he's up for a contract next year. No trouble.
Did they win?
Hell yeah, they won, Brad Sham. Let's make this different. Hell yeah, the Cowboys won with George Pickens.
Well, if he had, first of all, he might have a better year than that.
He could. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But if he is a good citizen and a good teammate, and they win, and he's a big reason why they win, all bets are off. Because I will tell you, I had a guy not in the negotiating team, not named Jones, but I had a guy in the front office who knows what he's talking about. Told me in October, we were talking. I said, "Well, Osa's having a great year." He said, "Yes, too bad we won't have him next year." I mean, they thought they weren't going to be able to. And then they said, then they looked at what they had and how they were. So things change, and I think anything can change. But yeah, I mean, it's possible that they would find a way to do a deal with him. But I think for that to happen, they're going to be putting him under a microscope every day. Garrett used to say, and I really thought it was good, and I think a lot of coaches do it. We don't just watch them on the field. We don't just watch them we watch them in the lunch line. Mm-hmm. We watch them when they're on their way to the classroom. We watch them when they're pulling into the parking lot. All of the demeanor that a player shows and the interactions with other players and with coaches, those are all things that go into, do I want this guy as part of my team going forward, and especially if I'm going to be paying him a significant amount of money.
Speaking of watching people, Jerry Jones watching Diggs?
Sure. Why wouldn't you be? I mean,
I say that in a way. I say that in a way, Bradley, because you and I have had these discussions before about, and then all of a sudden the owner, president, general manager comes out and says, need to work a little harder. Need to show up a little more. Need to have a little bit. You and I had this discussion before that.
Yes. So I thought that what he said about needing to see more about, we need him to attack his rehab differently when he said that. That's something that not a lot of people were talking about. But it was a very ill-kept secret.
Yes, sir.
And they were not happy about the way he approached the rehab during the year. And he doesn't see eye to eye with one of the very best training staffs in the sport. Yeah. And so that's an issue. That's an issue. But yes, darn right they'll be watching him. They don't want him to hurry up and be out there when he can't be there, but they want to see what he's done to prepare himself. And that's why I think that position is really critical for them. If you go line up and play tomorrow, they've only got one cornerback that I feel good about being in the game.
Come on, Brad. You've watched a lot of Buffalo Bill tape. You know a lot about Elam and stuff like that.
By the way, I like that young man.
Yeah,
he is a terrific young man, and I like everything he's saying. But let's get him out there in pads and put him up against a receiver.
Sure.
None of the things that we're allowed to see during mini camps. And, I think they'll miss Jordan Lewis. I'd like to see them keep him. I don't know what Carson's deal is. Butler was a guy. Butler came from literally nowhere to,
Right.
oh my God, how are we going to play without him?
Yeah.
And he's not ready to play. I mean, Bland's the only guy I know who for sure they're going to line him up. The kid they drafted, at some point he'll be ready and he'll help. But I don't know where he is right now. And it's just all talk right now until we get out there and we see what they're doing.
Brad, I'm going to take you back to the 1970s.
I wasn't here.
What do you miss about Cowboy training camp from the 1970s?
Well, the access to players and coaches was
Damn
completely-
right.
but
Damn right.
The world was different. The media was different. There
Yeah.
weren't camera phones.
Yeah.
But we could walk up to any player or any assistant coach at any time, and you had a different relationship with guys. The strictest rule for media access for players in training camp was if you wanted to talk to a guy at lunch when everybody was in the Cal Lutheran dining room, including John Wooden, who was running his basketball camp.
Yeah.
When everybody was in there, you just had to make sure that you went through PR and said, hey, I want to talk to this guy at lunch. And you almost always did.
Yeah.
So the access was just completely different. It was a different job to do.
I have no concept of what that means in the 70s. Wasn't around. I just got here.
It was, I tell you what, man, when I was growing up,
Sure.
I'm an older guy now,
Sure.
but watching these guys cover this team was amazing because there wasn't we had a publication. We watched the news. We got our highlights, our weekly highlights were Monday Night Football at halftime, but the job that these guys did, I would have given anything to be working media back then and being able to have the access, walking on the field, watching practice, grabbing guys, whatever I would have given anything.
I'll blow your mind here. You been to Radio Row at the Super Bowl?
No, sir. No, sir.
You haven't?
No,
okay.
sir.
But you've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen of it. Yeah.
Okay. So what's your impression of it?
There's a lot going on.
And it's like a convention center floor, full of nothing but TV setups.
Yeah.
And Brian, you do it every year. Am I right? Like there's hundreds of radio stations.
Hundreds of radio stations.
Every PR guy who's got a player with a soft drink deal, they're all coming through. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The first Super Bowl that I did was in 1977, Dallas and Denver and New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah.
There was no such thing as the Radio Row. And so I was doing a talk show 5 nights a week. There were only 2 of them in town. And we were the Cowboys flagship station. And so we had Tech Schramm on Monday night. And so I've got Tuesday through Friday. I've got to fill from 6 to 7:30. And we were at one of the worst hotels I've ever stayed at in my life, the New Orleans Airport Hilton Inn.
For the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was the NFC team hotel for the Super Bowl. So now I've got to be on at 6 o'clock. And in those days, Voch, I carry my own equipment bag. I'm my own producer. And the way I connected to the station was I unscrewed the mouthpiece from the dial-up telephone and connected my little mixer box with 2 little alligator clips on the terminals in the phone. So that meant I could now transmit the program, but I couldn't talk to the radio station. I had no way to do that. So I've set up my mixer and I'm ready to go. I've got my little stopwatch and I'm listening to the commercials down the line. Now I've got to have guests. So I said, hey, Randy White, I need you to come to my room Tuesday night at 6 till about 7:15. Sure, no problem. And then Cliff and Charlie, I need you to be up there on Wednesday. And Roger, I need you to be up there on Thursday and see if Drew will come by for a little bit with you.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I had players coming to my room to do the interviews in 1977.
Wow.
And you can't get anywhere near them now.
Can't get near them. No, they won't let you get close.
That's how different things were about it.
If they let us do a podcast with Dak, we could retire tomorrow, but we'll never. One day. One last thing, and I'll just let you go. Let me.
One last thing, and then I've got a question that I want to pose.
Brad's told me he's got a question for us, Voch. So this might be
fantastic.
interesting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to 2025. Brad, this draft class I think is very impressive. I really like what the Cowboys did with it. What are your general thoughts? Do any of them jump out to you? Do any of them you think can make a day one contribution that can really shake things up?
Well, I mean, all of these opinions are based on scouting reports, all-star games, and what we've seen on tape. There's nothing that happened in OTAs and minicamp that would make anyone qualified to answer that question. But the answer, I think, is yes, absolutely. I think the top 3 picks all can get you excited. Both of the running backs are interesting to me. Including the big guy from Clemson.
Maffa. Phil Maffa.
And I'll tell you what, I am intrigued by, Brian will tell me which round he was taken in, but the big dumpster-sized defensive tackle from UCLA.
In the 7th, yeah.
7th round, yeah.
Toia, yeah.
I am really intrigued to watch him. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that he might not be your normal 7th round pick. You only need him to play 2 downs.
Yeah,
sure.
And they've got a lot of new pieces in there that you kind of like, but they've got to have someone who's going to make people respect the inside of the line of scrimmage when they want to go try to run the ball. And I think this guy might be able to do that. Now we'll know more when they get pads on. And
sure.
But Voch, here's the other side of that. If you'd asked me with a week to go in Oxnard last year, I'd have told you Kalen Carson.
Yeah.
Kalen Carson had a scrimmage against the Rams. He picked off Matthew Stafford. He was covering everybody. He looked great. In fact, Will McClay walked by, and they took him in the same round they took Bland in the 5th round.
5th round.
He walked by me, and I said, "Hey, just you keep drafting corners in the 5th round, will you?" And then what did Kalen Carson do last year besides get hurt?
Not much.
Yeah.
He disappointed them.
His confidence got shot. Yeah.
Totally shot. He couldn't handle it. So that's why when you say who looks good to you now, I'm excited to see all the top 3 guys. And there's a lot of guys I'm really interested to see, but we won't know. We won't know till we get out there. But I am intrigued by that big defensive tackle from UCLA.
Fair enough.
All right, I got something for you guys.
Yes,
but I don't want to dive off till I hear you talk about it a little bit, and then you can carry on. So I had the opportunity to be at the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame in May, and one of the inductees was Bo Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And I had the great privilege of spending a little bit of time with him. I was at a table having dinner with him on the night before the induction, spent a lot of time with him that morning. First time I'd ever met him, just completely taken with him because he's Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him walking up the red carpet toward the induction dais, and I'm looking at him, and I thought, there's one of the 5 greatest American athletes in the history of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like a reasonable thing to say?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Who are the other 4?
Is Dion one of them?
I'm asking you.
Oh, okay. Well,
who do you think are the 5? If Bo is one, and he doesn't have to be one,
sure.
I'm going to put him in. Who are the 5 greatest American athletes in history?
This could be a whole nother program.
I'm telling you. So
are you basing it on Is it just single sport type players?
No. I'm basing it on like
athletes, just straight athletes.
What made Bo Jackson a great athlete?
Well, Herschel Walker was very similar to me that way. When you start to talk about Herschel Walker, I was at LSU when Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson were playing. So I
put Bo on the list because of the degree to which he excelled in
both sports.
And baseball.
Yeah.
So here's my list.
Brian Jordan, if you really want to think about safety with the Falcons and then quality, Deion wasn't a great baseball player.
He was good.
He was good.
And he was obviously a great athlete. Okay. Yeah. The first name I thought of was Jim Thorpe.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
The Carlisle Indians, right? Is that where
he's just one of the most iconic. Okay.
Well, track, foot, all that. He played all the sports.
Second name I thought of was Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
The athleticism, just one sport.
Boxing in that era, yes.
What goes into succeeding at the level he did as an athlete, okay.
Yeah.
Then then I thought, oh, wait, I said, and that's right, I like both of those. And, but wait, I forgot about Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
Okay, all Jesse Owens did was, win all those Olympics in Germany at a time when he was hated in his own country.
Yeah.
In Nazi Germany. Now I've got 4. I've got Jim Thorpe. I've got Jesse Owens. I've got Muhammad Ali. I've got Bo Jackson.
I would throw Jackie Robinson there. If you watched him play quarterback at UCLA, I mean, he was like, he could have been a football player, baseball player type of guy. I'll throw in, how about somebody for the size he was? How about Lou Alcindor, later Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, with the length and what he how he played basketball.
If you like him, how about Will Chamberlain, who was also a great high jumper?
Yeah, there you go. Gale Sayers. Ahead of both of those centers.
Mm-hmm. I thought, I'm forgetting Jim Brown,
the
greatest running back in the history of football and an All-American lacrosse player.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait, Bob Hayes was an Olympic gold medal sprinter. He was the fastest man. He had not played football, and he came to football, and he one man single-handedly changed the entire wide receiver position in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And so now we've got Michael Jordan on the outside of this, and we've got Deion on the outside of this, and nobody's mentioned Michael Phelps.
Usain Bolt, maybe? Usain Bolt, maybe?
Usain Bolt?
Usain Bolt?
He's not American.
Oh, okay, American. Okay,
American.
I'm just naming people. That
I think my 5. If I got to pick, I got to pick 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm picking Jim Thorpe, Muhammad Ali, Jesse Owens, Bo Jackson, and Bob Hayes. But if you want to put Jackie Robinson in there, or you want to put Jim Brown in there, I'm not mad.
No, I tell you what,
Well, not have that discussion, huh?
Well, if you want to talk about female athlete too, Babe Zaharias.
So I was Kyle Prengler, who has been one of my spotters. He's now doing PR for the Lakers, but he'll spot the Rams game in August. So I was having this conversation with him, and he said, "Well, does it have to be just men?" I said, "No. Hendrickson Zaharias was." He said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Just Google her." He Googled her, and he started looking. And Voch right now is saying, "I'm sorry, who?" Babe Hendrickson Zaharias.
I haven't been on Earth long enough for this one, but go ahead.
No,
I'm listening.
She's amazing.
That's why there are old people like me and Broaddus.
I'm just watching and listening. I'm using my eyes and ears on this one. I'm learning.
Grab your phone and just Google Babe Hendrickson Zaharias. I mean, she was
unreal. Unreal athlete.
Track star. She threw javelin. She became one of the
hurdler.
One of the greatest professional golfers that ever lived.
Yeah. There wasn't a sport she couldn't do. There was not a sport that she couldn't do.
And women weren't allowed to do anything then.
But you didn't know what you got yourself into tonight, did you?
It's so funny. I look up Babes Zaharias.
That's Babe Zaharias right there. That's her basketball.
And just right here.
Right? Look at her.
Just right here is. So Yeah, I'll do some research on Babes and
Zaharias.
Mildred.
Zaharias.
Mildred. Okay,
Yeah.
Zaharias.
That's why they called her Babe.
That's why I called her Babe. Yeah.
She used to box too. She up here boxing people too.
I'm telling you, Vaj, there's not a sport.
She throwing baseballs too. What's going on with Babes Zaharias?
This is a gal you wanted to date. You wanted to date this gal. She plays all the sports. She plays them all. She's a golfer. She was a badass golfer.
She swim too? She swim too, Brian Broaddus?
She did everything. I've told you, she did everything. That's why I brought her up.
She jumped hurdles too? Well, that's it.
I said that earlier.
That's your damn top 5 right here, Babes.
Zaharias.
Drixon Zaharias. That's your daggum top 5 right here.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
So it's a pretty interesting question about who are the 5 greatest athletes in American history.
Bo Jackson's one of the best. I mean, I've seen him in college, Herschel Walker competing against those guys. And
he's in his now, and he's still in great shape, but he's
my gosh.
You see all these guys now, you run into him and you say, oh yeah, I remember him, he was great. But then you stop and think and you remember what you saw, and then you talk to them and listen to some of the stories, and
incredible.
Think, I'm sorry, I'm having dinner with Bo Jackson. What's wrong with this?
All I remember is Bo Jackson one year in Auburn in the 84 Iron Bowl. He went to his left. Brett Fullwood went to his right. Alabama made a goal line stop, and Brian got to go play in the Sugar Bowl that year because Alabama had a goal line stand to beat Auburn. I was so glad Bo Jackson went the wrong way. And Pat Dye, thank you for handing the ball to Brett Fullwood instead of Bo Jackson at that time.
Mr. Brad Sham, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the Doing All Right podcast.
Thank you so much. Pleasure's mine. Let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all can follow me. Y'all know where to follow me. Brian Broaddus is doing updates on Crown Global Media. Y'all be sure to follow him. Do you do social media, Mr. Sham, Brad?
He's involved. If you like the Chicago Cubs, follow Brad Sham. He'll talk about them Cubs.
You'll get a lot of Cubs stuff next week. I'll be at Wrigley Field for 6 games.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, I'm on the X, and I'm on the Instagram, and I'm on the Facebook.
Follow Brad Sham on the Instagram. He might have a picture with Bo Jackson, them just being best friends.
No, I do.
Oh, please. Y'all go check him out on the socials as well. Yeah. And we appreciate everybody for tapping in with us. We'll catch y'all again tomorrow. All right? Crown.